Everybody in Texas knows everybody in Texas.
It's a small knit state, is it? Like,
No,
yeah.
it's a big state. I don't know anybody, but I know Bill.
Oh, there you go. That's all that matters, right? What's up, everyone? This is episode 526, and we are talking with Tony Hurt from Blue Mountain Pythons. We're going to hit on his carpet python collections, his breedings, including what he has going on in the future. We get into his caging and how he approaches husbandry for diamond pythons, despite some of the obstacles that he would face living in Texas. We also have a special guest that pops in. It's good friends with Tony. He just wanted to show his support. For the Patreon members, check out this week's Hot Take. We hit on the recent video that popped up on USARK's Florida YouTube channel. Even though it is very early in what's going on, we still have a chat about what is known so far. All right, let's get into it. What's up?
Try again.
I already screwed it up.
Yeah, no, try again.
The heck?
Yeah.
Welcome, Eddie. Jesus.
No. We've only been doing the show for 12 goddamn years. Can't start the show.
The boss is here. I'm feeling nervous.
Don't look at him. Don't look at Bill. Just don't make eye. Do not make eye contact.
Do I have to get Buddy on the phone?
No. No, we don't need other people here.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. And tonight we are joined by Tony Hurt, and we have a special guest here. I guess these gentlemen are good friends, and we have our good friend Bill Stiegel popping in to say hello.
To bring Bill Stiegel on again. Yeah,
I wouldn't miss popping Tony's cherry on NPR. So.
Nice.
And it's become weird. All right, so.
So how do you guys know each other? Just Texas from living?
Everybody in Texas knows everybody in Texas.
It's a small knit state, is it? Like,
No,
yeah.
it's a big state. I don't know anybody, but I know Bill.
Oh, there you go. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
I would let Tony just to tell the story about how we met, but his dementia's kicking in a little bit, and he probably wouldn't remember. But the reason I wanted to come on just for a minute before you get going with Tony, well, maybe I'll stay
maybe
on.
not.
And he'll get going. There he is.
There he's back. Okay.
is because Tony Hurt was my original snake mentor. I got my very first snake from Tony, probably Tony, 23 years ago, maybe right around.
I'm
right
thinking
around 2000,
98, 99.
Yeah, maybe a little before, yeah. So yeah, maybe 25 years ago.
It's Tony's fault that we have you.
That's what.
Okay.
That's what
Bill
Kim
is my
keeps
best
saying.
accomplishment. I look back, and if I don't do anything, Bill has set such a good example that I can feel good about that. I sleep well at night.
So in like 6 degrees of separation type of thing, you created the sickness, I guess, right?
Well, yeah. There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
He's
I don't
responsible.
think Bill was near as fortunate until he met me. So maybe it started right here.
Thank God you showed up, Tony. Yeah.
What was the snake? What was the first snake? I know it has a ball python.
It's a ball
probably,
python.
but
Yeah.
what kind? What was it?
It was a male het-pied ball python
Het pied.
that was actually purchased as a gift for my son Ryan, who at the time was probably eight years old.
Wow.
Okay. So like no other genes on top of that. It was just het pied.
Back then, that was a $3,000.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, there was a lot you could do with a het pied. Especially like you could flip it over and look at the tail and tell it was a het pied.
That was big back then.
That was big news. Big news.
Right.
If you didn't know how to tell that, you were doing something wrong.
You weren't in the circle.
Right. Yeah. You weren't in the know. Yeah.
Well, so anyway, I was just gonna kind of finish how we met. I purchased that snake for my son. He wanted to get a snake, and that was the first real snake that I had. So I was really an adult when I got into this, and of course I quickly took over that snake. I loved it, and a year later, Tony really did take me under his wing. I mean, he's the one that taught me how to take care of snakes, how to breed snakes, and we got into some breeding projects together. Ball pythons and then carpet pythons. Tony taught me how to take care of and breed and establish carpet pythons. So
it wasn't like there was a podcast that you could listen to that could tell you this information.
Not in 1998.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Yeah, the exchange of information back then was all about going to shows. It's amazing now how we can share information.
Yeah.
And it really is surprising that since I've gotten into it that we don't share more. But there's just it's a whole different industry, hobby. It's changed 100%.
Yeah, as you guys being former ball python guys, isn't it crazy? I was thinking about this the other day. You see, like Kabilko, he puts out a video. You're like, holy shit, what is this crazy morph combo that he's got going on now? But like back then, when you just had a pied or like a pastel pied, that was like, that was like the holy grail. Bumblebees, killer bees, queen bees. I mean, I don't know. How do you guys see that now? Do you look back at that and say, ever think about that?
Well, I'll tell you guys real fast because it's not a ball python show. I bought a pastel for $1,000 and I got in the newspaper and I just started collecting normal females. And then 2 years from when I bought that pastel, I made $18,000 breeding pastels.
Holy shit!
And I'm like, this snake business is the easiest thing ever. So, the next thing I do, I'm throwing the whole house and farm into this snake breeding venture.
Right.
But it was a great time to breed a pastel ball python, and I was fortunate to breed some really nice pastels. I went to Daytona the year after that, and I had people buying pastels for $2,000 off my table.
Wow.
Even before the show, like when the breeders would come and walk around, it was really a cool experience.
Yeah, it's great.
Things moved really fast back then because everything was co-dom or incomplete dominant stacked, right? So every year, you didn't have to wait for the new triple recessive to come out, man. Every year it was just stacked with the next, it's a not as a pastel clown. Well, now you got the killer clown, super pastel clown, which just blew everybody away. And so things move fast.
Can you imagine what you would think about seeing some of the combinations that you see today back then? Your just mind would be blown, like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
No, wouldn't be able to describe it.
Yeah, I didn't expect things to be like this. I really thought the value would hold a little bit better than it has. But looking back on it, it all makes 100% sense what has happened. There's so many people doing it, so many different animals that you can choose from that you can still do great. And I think Bill's a great example of somebody that has got a business sense about it, and he knows what snakes to stay into. And I think anybody that does that, it doesn't just fall off a tree and hit you in the head. You got to do some thinking.
That's the one thing that I always liked about you, Bill, is like you had a clear focus with that, right? You sort of, you're like, I'm not going to breed anything that's above this price point. Yeah. And I want things that look good into adulthood.
Yeah, I mean, some of that has been, just to be honest, some luck, and that comes with the green trees that I produce, right? A lot of that came in because I work on two opposite end of the spectrums. I produce entry level or show quality ball pythons, and then I produce really some of the top notch, high end designer green trees on the planet. But I do like the fact that I'm nowhere in between. And I've done well on both sides. Financially and just having fun, what it's supposed to be about anyway.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, I'm going to bail. I don't want to take Tony's thunder. I can't wait to watch the rest of this episode, but I wanted to just, thank Tony again for, the beginning that he gave me. And truly, it's a true statement. If it wasn't for Tony Hurt, Phoenix Reptiles would not be on the face of the planet right now. So appreciate you, man.
Bill, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I'll talk about you a little bit after you're gone. But getting back into snakes, I really watched what you did and how you handled yourself and how you kind of pick and chose what you did and what little success I've had. I think a lot has to do with I took my time, but then I watched what Bill did. So I thank you for that.
I appreciate that, man.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll trash Bill when he gets off. Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah,
and I'll get my payback in August when I come see you guys in Philly.
Did you get a written invitation to this carpet fest? I don't recall sending.
I'm working on that.
Of course he did. I already said it.
No one's talking to you. You're not needed here.
See, Bill. Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, he
came back.
He's the king of podcasts, isn't he?
Yeah, man.
I went to Bill's house last week and said, Bill, I'm going on NPR. What do I do? Who better to ask?
Bill's good people. He's good people.
We'll keep him, I guess, for a little bit longer. And then we'll try to trade him to somebody else, a different group, maybe the monitor people. So I don't know. We'll find something else.
That's way too much work for Bill.
That's right. Yeah. He's in retirement now.
That's true. Yeah.
He likes his snakes, but he likes it to be easy too.
Yeah. Who doesn't? Like
you don't.
Apparently not. Apparently I don't. What's wrong with me?
How many things can I breed? I don't know. I think.
Listen, do you think that I think beyond whatever? It's like,
No. See, I try to influence Owen like Bill you influence Bill, but I'm having no luck here.
Well, and I don't know Owen very well, but I've been listening to you guys, so I know you a lot better than you know me. But some of these animals you were struggling with, and you're really you've got it down now. So great job to you, and enjoy all your babies, enjoy your work, man. This if you like it, that's what it's about.
Yeah, it was one of the baby white lips left this week to go to where it to a new home, and I was like, no,
bittersweet.
Well, you'd try for 10 years to get the little bastards. And
yeah,
then, it comes time to it, but it went to Lisa, so it wasn't like
good.
It wasn't that bittersweet. It went to somebody we know who was going to appreciate it.
Yeah, she'll take care of it.
Oh yeah, but I'm like, I don't want to sell them. I don't want to put them off the. You have to deal with all the other stuff that comes with it. But
I'm sure you want them to go to people that you know, and you can keep track of them. And I think it's really interesting how much easier it has been for me to work with always captive bred animals. Mm-hmm. But hearing you guys talk about the white lips, which I've been in the white lip business before. I bought wild caught white lips for $45 and loved every minute of them trying to chew on me.
Yeah,
I'd wear a snake suit to hold them. But I hear people being successful with those wild caught snakes. Not the way I would go as a beginner, but I think there's an art to that. It's really awesome to see people get those snakes acclimated and to reproduce.
It's watching people who are like, I've had a corn snake for about a year and a half now, and I want to get your opinion on what I need to get a white lip. And I'm like, I think you need more time is what I think you need. But it seems like as stuff becomes more accessible, they are gorgeous animals. So of course people are going to be attracted to them and wanting to own them. And it is cool to see people have success with those rare kind of weird off the cuff stuff. So, I mean, I'm working on getting some wild caught dun-eye adjusted right now. So
I feel Owen is an example of what's often overlooked in the hobby of, sticking with something even through the terrible lows,
gut punches, all the wonderful gut punches.
And like, if you're really, I hate to throw the word around, but if you're really passionate about the species or the project or whatever it would be, that, somehow you're going to eventually come out on, on a positive thing. But I think it's cool so that people can see that, that have been following the show for a long time, that have seen Owen through those lows and those weeks where he's just like, I don't know.
I'm going to throw something against the wall. Yeah.
And now to finally have success, it just, I don't know. I think that's cool.
No, I think that's what it's all about. And if you're going to have several species, maybe have that hard species that's going to have that big that big payoff. It may not be a financial payoff, but it's going to be a payoff for you, knowing that you accomplished that hurdle that a lot of people haven't been able to jump over.
And it's something that, like, maybe it doesn't produce every year, but when it does, you're not in a rush to sell the babies. You can kind of slow it, and like you can set them at a price that they're not going to run out the door. If they do, it's a great idea, but or fantastic. But this way you can kind of ease it off a little bit. But there's a lot of different ways you can skin the cat. So. Well,
you can even, hold them all back and just raise them all a different way and kind of find out the best way to do it. We all act like we know what we're doing, but 20 years ago we knew what we were doing, and it was completely wrong. So,
right. And we're still learning that we're wrong.
Doing,
right. Still figuring stuff out. Well, let's go back to the beginning, since this is your first time on NPR. How did you get started in reptiles?
I'd have to say, like a lot of your guests, I was just born with the snake gene.
Okay.
I really was always amazed with snakes. My dad taught earth science, and when I was about 5 years old, one of his students brought him a snake to give to me. And it was a little hog-nosed snake, and I put it in an aquarium and tried to feed it any kind of bug I could find in the yard, and eventually it died. And I just kept getting snakes and killing them. But I didn't have anybody that was into snakes to tell me any different.
Right.
There wasn't a library in this town that I could go and even find a book on how to raise a hognose. Really, the information age is upon us. I sound like I'm 100 years old, but I'll be 53 in a few weeks. And living in a town of 3,000 people, that's just kind of what you did. But eventually I learned. I got a garter snake, started feeding it goldfish, and man, that was the coolest thing ever. And then just always kept snakes in my life till I got to high school. And I could tell you guys snake stories, man, if you want to know some crazy stuff, but we got a lot
always
about. So
always, but if you want to go on a tangent, just let it fly. That's what we want, man. We want the crazy stuff.
Someday I'm going to send this book that my mom had her first grade class write about me and a Burmese python that escaped, got into our washing machine.
Oh God!
It met its maker in that washing machine. And,
oh God!
It's a long story that they wrote. It's very, very cute, and I'm really proud of that. Looking back on it, not that I killed the snake, but I blame the equipment I was using. But it was really a neat story that really, hopefully, exposed some of those kids to animals and snakes and how great they can be to keep. Because I was very upset. It was a very emotional story about me losing that snake.
Yeah.
But so got out of snakes when I hit that age where I'm looking for girls. And but then when I was right out of college, moved back to Dallas, and somehow or another I came across Stan Grumbeck.
Okay.
If you know Stan, Stan's the man. This guy's been breeding snakes before I was born. And I went over to his house, and he had a snake room, and I saw just couldn't believe. Zoo quality or better. Everything was just immaculate. He had snakes in drawers, snakes in cages. Man, my head just started spinning. So a year later, I've got berms, I've got boas, and then I get in the berm breeding business, which was great. I loved it. Got some albino berms and green berms. I bred some Colombian boa constrictors. Really a neat time. I sold all those snakes in the newspaper. I would just post ads. And people would come over and give me $100 or $40, depending on what snake they were buying. And it got so busy that I would just have to say, all right, it's going to be Saturday morning between 8 and 12, and you can come over and buy your snakes. But I had a great time doing that. It was a lot of fun. How I survived, I had those snakes so fat, really knew, again, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants.
Right.
I'll call Stan. Stan, is this okay if this snake eats a 12-pound rabbit? He goes, well, I guess we'll find out.
Rabbit, only one way to know, really. So that's awesome.
With life and jobs, I ended up leaving all that with my partner at the time, and didn't get back into snakes until about a few years before I met Bill.
Okay.
And then, even then, because I had seen a diamond carpet cross at Stan's house that was amazing. The snake was way overfed. It had to be 10 feet long, but it was just solid black and had big X's down its back. And I kept waiting for that snake to reproduce. He ended up losing the animal before I could get offspring. But that snake really stuck in my head. And I'm sure you guys have snakes too that you've seen that you'll just won't ever forget that moment.
Yeah.
It's completely incredible. And so when I got my first job I went to therapy school. And when I got out of therapy school, I went and bought a jungle carpet from, I think his name is Peter Call.
Yeah.
I always called him Python Pete.
Yep.
Yeah.
He sold me a smoking snake. Just loved it.
Those are good jungles. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wish I had that snake. And then a few years after that, I got some rainbows that from Lloyd Lemke.
Okay.
Okay.
Coastal carpet guy.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, yeah. And I had no idea who it was, but I bought some adults from him, and they were perfect and bred for me every year. It was the easiest snake to breed. And then I got some jungles indirectly. I got them from him, but he'd gotten them from the Barkers.
Okay.
And these animals were all descendants of the beautiful jungle carpet that's on the cover of Pythons of the World, Volume 1 or Volume 2? 1?
Volume 1. Yep. Volume 2 is about ball pythons. And then Volume 3 is the rest of the stuff over there. All the Indo stuff.
So I would take that book to the shows with me, and I'd sell these jungle carpets that were just beautiful.
That's awesome.
And those are some animals I wish I still had. They were probably 5 or 6 years old when I actually bought them, but just in perfect condition. Loved carpets. And it wasn't too much longer after that I got distracted by the ball pythons. And that really was the beginning of the end. I had probably 100 adult breeding females and, 5 or 6 different ball python, really nice spiders and pinstripes and all that sounds no big deal, but it was a big deal.
Big deal then, yeah. I mean, that was I remember having friends in college in the early 2000s who had some pastels, and they were like, we're going to breed them because they're still up there. And that was around the time when spider was just starting to really kind of affect a lot of things or be mixed in with some stuff. So I definitely know that was still kind of up in there. They weren't the buy one, get one free ball python at that time yet. So.
But it got to be a lot of work, and I was having trouble with my marriage, and so I got a divorce and just kind of just didn't look back with the snakes.
Right.
And I didn't think I'd ever get back into it until my daughter hit about 17, and she didn't need her dad as much. So I needed something to take care of, and I decided I'm going to get a snake.
Okay.
So I started thinking about, and that's when I started listening to you guys.
Okay. All right.
Just trying to soak up as much. I listened to one show thinking, I don't know anything about carpets. I've read them, I don't know how many times, but man, everything has changed so much. But that's when it all started. I bought 2 snakes in about 2 years. And then I started to raise those up. About the time they bred, I started diving into more.
Okay.
But since then, I've just really keep a small collection. I think I've bought, not including the diamonds, I've bought 5 animals.
Okay.
And then everything else I have is stuff that I've held back and raising up to breed.
Were the diamonds like when you came back in, was it straight to the diamonds or was it to something else for a little bit first and then you kind of worked your way up the diamonds?
So once you start keeping snakes and you have so much time on your hands and you're 50 years old, I mean, it was just, it was a great way for me to spend my time. And if you hadn't been around snakes for a long time, it's probably a pretty unique situation for somebody like myself that really needs to be around snakes. My life is better when I have a snake really close by. And I think if we deny ourselves that, we're just kidding somebody.
Yeah.
Once I got back into it, I realized what I missed. And kind of like you guys always encourage us to, look beyond what you know. There's if I've learned anything, it's that there's a lot we don't know with this animal that does not communicate well.
Yeah.
Right. We're just watching signs and just trying to imitate the wild, but meanwhile, optimal environment. We don't want to stress you too much, but we need you to know where you're from. So experiencing all that, I just started going a little bit deeper, and I realized that I needed a challenge, kind of like we talked about a little bit earlier. So I dove into the diamonds. They kind of offered everything that I wanted. Just like a carpet python, I love the size and shape and just kind of the attitude. But I also wanted the challenge in general. As far as I know, except for Terry Burwell, I don't know how many people have tried to breed these in
Texas,
in the desert.
And
right.
I live in the desert.
Right.
My relative humidity is about 20%.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Well,
I would feel really good about that.
That article that it's not actually the desert, I guess, but that article that came out in Reptiles Magazine, it was
about
Stan Shearis about breeding diamonds. A lot of people gave him shit because he kept them in styrofoam coolers in his garage. But, after talking to Rob about that, he was saying about how the temperature in Colorado, which is where that guy was from, is just so different. Because he will say he'll show me a picture where it's like snows on the ground in the morning time. And then in the afternoon, it's like the streets are clear. Here in the East Coast, it snows. The snow's staying there for days, sometimes months,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I find that's one of the biggest things that I've learned doing this show is that, a lot of times people will disagree on how you breed, species. And it's sort of like you're looking at it as your way is the right way because you're having success. However, you're in a completely different situation and all of the parameters are usually different. And you sort of have to understand, to your point, how that snake works in order to try to be successful with it. And then when you throw in the tougher species part of it that haven't really been bred, that's even more challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having a challenge because it's like, I think if every time I put my snakes together, no matter what the species was, they got eggs, I think I'd be bored.
It would get boring.
Like, I think I would be bored. Like, I want the challenge. So, yeah.
And I wanted the challenge, but I also knew that there were some great people in the hobby that know how to do it.
Right.
And they don't know how to do it maybe at my house, but I think unlike some of the things that you've done, Owen, you're really flying in the dark because even the stuff that people have been successful with, you're really not sure how much that contributed to them being successful.
Right. Like what did I say? Like anybody can run into a clutch, do it twice. Like let me see it back
three
to back
times,
or
right?
something like that 3 times. Well,
that would be the thing, right?
Three times you know what you're doing.
Right.
If you get 3 clutches, you know what you're doing. One
and
clutch.
I thought about that statement, Owen, and I like where your head's at. And sometimes it depends on the snake. We have snakes that are good breeders, and we have snakes that aren't as good.
Right.
I think some snakes have more anxiety. And just if a snake is stressed too much, it's not going to be able to function the way you want it to.
I was thinking about that today because I'm sitting here thinking that I'm pretty sure I could have gotten water pythons at this point if I had a different pair of water pythons. I'm like, I think
yours are broken.
Like, mine are broken. She's a maniac and he doesn't want anything to do with her. And I'm like, well, we're not going to get babies this way, guys. So yeah.
So are you just riding the line and you continuing to do what you've been doing to hopefully she'll acclimate? Or are you trying to change it up every year?
I think it's going to end up being him. Because he's a little bit smaller than her, and he's also a finicky little feeder. Like he doesn't really pound the food. She'll eat anything that comes in front of her. So she's always huge, of size, swells up nice and big, and he hides. and doesn't want anything to do with her. So I think
you sure it's a male?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The amount of times he's had more action with a probe set than he's had with her. Okay.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
But it's one of those things where it's like, maybe you need a different boy with a more of a jerky personality. So,
or just some kind of stimulation, something different. If it's, maybe sheds of other snakes. But if you use a nest box, and you get eggs in that box, I've really had good luck with that smell with all kinds of things, just stimulating a snake in a different way. So I've really got to where I throw all kinds of stuff in their cages. One, I want them to smell something different, but I like to see what kind of reaction I get. And, a snake that wants to breed often acts like a snake that wants to eat until you put food up in front of its mouth. And then
it just turns its head. Yeah.
But, that stimulation comes from, I think, smell. I think it comes from what they feel. And they've got to be the best thermostats in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I want a thermostat like a snake. I got a room full of them.
Yeah.
They tell me how cold it is.
They're also the best way to indicate, because I have my 3 rough scales over here. And I thought the one female needed another year, but my male was cued in on her. So he bred the one female, and then he was up against the glass, like doing that thing where he kind of just waves back and forth. So I put him back in with the big female, and he was in her cage waving back and forth. I put him up with the other female, and I haven't seen him for 4 days. He's been up with her, like she's gone. He's with her, curled up in the back. He's doing all that other fun stuff. So it's like they're a better indication sometimes than I even know what's going on. So.
Yeah, they speak snake language.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know what he sees in that other female, but obviously it's completely different.
He's like, no, I'm done with this one. I want the one up there. Like that one, yeah.
So I'm curious with the nest box. You were saying about how you're adding stuff from kids. So you're taking like the moss or whatever and putting that in the cage. And what kind of behavior are you seeing from that?
So here's what got me started. 2022, I had 2 gravid females, Colette and Firefly. Colette I'd bred before, and she would always, right after her post-ovulation shed, she'd hit the nest box and just camp. She found her spot. I could not get Firefly in the nest box. And so I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell? She wants something I'm not giving her. Now, I'm telling you what I thought then. That's kind of changed now. But so I get the idea of taking the bedding from Colette's nest box and putting it in Firefly's. And as soon as I did that, she immediately hit the nest box and she settled right down. So something about that.
Interesting.
I didn't change where the box was. I just added a different element, which was smell of a female that should be emitting hormones. So that snake's got to smell different than a female that, in the spring, so to speak.
That, and it might be one of those things that like she can smell that eggs were deposited here, and that might be something. She's like, it's a safe place to put mine. I don't know if I make that connection.
And then if you look at carpet pythons, they usually are, think about those observations that have been seen in the wild where they continue to go back to that same nest site over and over and over again, to where people have found, hatched eggs
underneath the females that are sitting on eggs.
Yeah. So,
well, and it kind of makes sense. It would be much more advantageous for them to use that same spot. And it's going to help the males find the females. I think all that's fascinating. Just how these animals operate.
Me too.
Because watching mine, I don't know how they survive sometimes, but that's a whole different topic. I don't know if we make our snakes decrease their survival skills because we make their life so optimal.
It's possible.
Yeah, you don't have to be, the best hunter. It's going to come back next week, or in the next couple days. So,
right. We raise these animals in almost an incubator type environment. And, I think that's why people didn't have success with the diamonds is the diamonds need to be stressed, or at least what we would interpret as stress. They need to get hot. They need to get cold. And that's probably what makes them strong, increases their metabolism, all that's work. So,
I think we talked about it maybe on the last show or maybe the show before, but we were talking about how, like, when we go herping and we see the snake in the wild, we're seeing like this little snapshot of what their environment is like. And, if it's going to get cold, it's going to get cold. They either die or they don't, and
either get out of there or die. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a good thought that, we're sort of, I guess in a way it's like domesticating them now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, every day of their life is about survival. And we put them in a cage and at some point that's got to become less important because they just don't act like they're trying to survive. It's just take it easy.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like even you see that with human beings, right? I mean, not that I'm comparing snakes with human beings, but the more civilized that it became, and you're not worrying about where you're getting food from, where you're getting shelter from, where you're getting, fire from, or whatever. You start to ponder the how the universe is made, and here we are today.
You start figuring out the other stuff.
Yeah, because you're not worrying about, where is my next meal going to come from?
Mm-hmm. And, this, I don't know if anybody's written about this, but surely this is not an original thought. But I do find it very interesting. If there is, is there a chance that we need to challenge our snakes more? Do we need to, every once in a while just drop the heat?
Spike it almost a little bit. Yeah.
The things I would do to snakes when I would take them to shows, I wouldn't be comfortable doing it in my house.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Right.
I mean, you guys have done it. You put them in a box and you put that in a box and you haul them around.
If you go to a big 2-day show like in Chicago, it's like I remember the first time we went out there. I'm like, I have to make sure we bring enough little water bowls to make sure the snakes all have water. And it's like, when are you going to water the snakes when you're out there doing that? But it's like they could easily go that amount of time with this stuff and they just came home. It was that kind of. Sometimes we also, with babies that are not feeding, it's always the trick of take them for a car ride or put them in a bag. It's like if you stress them out, then they're actually going to start paying attention and possibly feeding. So maybe stress is something that's important.
Well, how many times I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about the story you hear all the time. If you got a male, he won't eat, he won't breed, take him in the car.
Yeah.
Just go stress him out, bring him back, and then all of a sudden he acts like a completely different snake.
We've had, I have personally driven snakes from my house to Eric's house and then picked up snakes from Eric's house to my house. And they have turned into completely different animals during that car ride to where he's like, this thing is a psychopath. I'm like, really? It wasn't that bad. Or, I'm holding this thing and he's like, that thing was crazy when I sent it to you. I'm like, yeah, it's fine here. Like it's sometimes that just happens. I mean, we've had that where, if you just drive them down the road and come back, it's like, especially with a male that won't breed, you put him back in the same cage with the same female, and it's like he's never seen her before in his life. So,
why? Come on, Eric, you have to know this. You've read every book.
So one of the things that I do to sort of, I think that that maybe the mindset on that is probably changing, but like I have picked up on that from doing the show for so many years. And one of the things that I took away, I can't remember who it was, but we were talking green trees and they said that they just shut everything off at night.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting. And the reasoning is like, it's like, big fireball in the sky goes down at night. And then what happens at night is what happens. The temperature is what the temperature is. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a level that I know that my room is not going to get to 30 degrees or something like that. But my heat goes off at night. Everything, all of it, everything. No heater, no, whatever the room is, that's what it is.
That's what the room is. Right.
I think the key to that though is just balancing out with giving them options later in the day, so that they can warm up. But I think, those little stressors maybe are good. Another one that Sean Christian talked about way back in the early days, he said about, he thinks that people are too crazy when it comes to cleaning. Like, they're making this like a super sterile environment. And, we're talking about scents and stuff like that. And one of the things that we all know, as soon as you clean the cage, the snake goes to the corner and just decides, this is what's going to, I'm going to leave something here. And like, maybe not, being so crazy about, having this sterile environment is good for their, immune systems or their, just how they function. I don't know. It's just thoughts that come into my head when you say that.
No, I think that's a great point, and I've thought about that. The fact that what kind of bothers me with not cleaning the cages is that they're confined in that environment with that smell. If they're in the wild, they don't. If it's something they don't like or they can tell that it's not good for them, they're going to leave.
They can get away from it. Yeah.
I guess I should I should make sure I put a pin in that, because I don't mean that you don't clean your cage, because I don't want somebody to listen and think like, oh, he didn't clean his cages for months or whatever.
Bleach it to high hell. No. Yeah.
I'm just saying that like maybe some of that, or maybe you have like what you're saying with the nesting from the nest box or whatever it would be, that you're putting that in there to give them that. So we sort of have this balance, right? Because we can never recreate the cosmic octopus in a box, but you can sort of try to get the best of all of those, so that you're balancing that out. I think that's kind of important, but interesting.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good to say that if you are new to carpet pythons, don't take too much from this conversation.
Yeah.
You got to keep it simple. But once you understand why you don't have to keep it simple, then go listen to this.
Right. Yeah. Then you can step up a little bit after you get them. Take a baby from hatchling to adult and proven breeder, and then you can start messing with stuff, because you've gone through at this point now. I think this year I will have animals that I produced to their great grandparents, and now their eggs are in the incubator. And it's like, when you've done that, and when you started having multiple generations on top of stuff, then you can start messing with it. Like, if I start messing with hatchling carpets, it's not the be all end all for me, because if it starts going bad, I know what I can do to try to salvage the situation.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And you also have the experience to sort of be able to tell, like I think the three of us here all can look at a snake and tell if something's right or not, or wrong. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's weird. I don't know how to put it into words, and it's hard to teach, but just like, it's just that visual thing. You're like, that seems a bit off.
Looking at your snakes every day, when something is off. It could be minor. And where we have a problem as new keepers is we will convince ourselves that it's not true, or that's not correct, or what the internet says they're doing this, so it should be fine. Your first knee-jerk reaction of something is not right is usually correct, and that's like, oh, she's holding her mouth a little weird. She probably just has a little bit. No, that could be the beginnings of stuff, and you should try to see how that goes. Or she's sitting a little cockeyed. Well, she probably isn't gravid. Just keep going, and then the problem is the only way to learn that stuff is to mess up a bunch.
Yeah, I use the example. It's probably the easiest example is, when I first got back into carpet pythons, there was the 90-degree hotspot type of situation, and you have to have like 85 ambient, and you constantly seeing snakes in the water bowl trying to get away from the heat, and they're like plastered up against the face of the tub or the cage or whatever it would be, and then you adjust that a bit, and then you see a different behavior. And now you start to see them, in different positions, so that's sort of like how we sort of stumbled upon that we maybe possibly could be keeping them wrong, or we're keeping them too warm. But if you think about how sort of what you said earlier, Tony, about, we really didn't have back in the 80s, you didn't have the equipment that you have today. It was sort of, just, how do you keep a Burmese python? You put this lamp on top of it, and you got to make sure that it's 90 degrees, probably because you weren't keeping it in a room that was regulated temperature, or it's just different things that sort of we've evolved over the years.
If you had a thermostat when I started keeping snakes, you were a professional snake keeper.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right. And now that's become just, you have to have it.
It's a needed thing. It's the amount of technology that we have crammed into our snake rooms. If you really kind of sit back and think about it, is stuff that all at one point people were making or jerry rigging. You happened to find some person who was interested in snakes who had the know-it-all of how to make this thing or use that thing for this. I know a lot of the stuff when I started they were temperature control systems that you use for air conditioners.
Yeah.
Right. I sold Rankos.
There you go.
Back in the day, Ranko thermostat. I had a guy that would build them, and I'd sell them. I'd make $10 a piece. I probably made $400. But over a year or two, it was just a waste of time. But I had good access to thermostats, and I learned about thermostats. And I helped people use thermostats that otherwise could have damaged their collection.
Right.
So, no, it's really funny. I bought a new thermostat for my diamonds, and it's a Herpstat. It didn't come with a book because I bought it from a friend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like getting a new Apple computer.
Right.
You have to sit down and figure, I think I had my first couple Herpstats for years before I started really figuring out what they could do. It's aside from set temperature.
You told me where it's you can ramp down the temperature.
Up,
I was like, wait, what?
You can do all this fun stuff. And if I can just get it, so all I got to do is push a button, and they'll all do what I want. That's the next step.
I mean, that alone right there is just amazing of what you can do with that, right? You can have the heat slowly rise up into the afternoon to where it peaks and then slowly bring it down.
Yep.
It's and you can control that,
Yeah.
That's.
I wish you could do it twice. I wish you could ramp up and down and then ramp back up and down.
Spike
Not
it up.
that I would do that every day, but there might be some days that I would want to do that.
Yeah.
If you could sit down and almost, plug it into a computer or something and almost plan it out that maybe every once in a while they have a bad day. It's going to be a cooler day. It's going to only get to this point and then level off the whole day. Or like you said, it's going to kind of do a couple spikes.
Well, it's probably similar to if there's cloud cover, right? I mean, if you have the bright sun on you, you're going to have, it's full thing. I bet you.
Give it a couple more things.
I can't remember. It's aquarium. It has to do with aquariums that they use this technology. But basically, you can have this app on your phone to where the weather to wherever you're trying to replicate is sort of doing the same thing. So if all of a sudden it gets cloudy, the lights sort of have a certain hue to them and the temperature changes a bit. So
could you just imagine basically just setting up the zone of the cage and be like, I want this cage to be like Darwin, Australia all year round. Whatever's going on in Darwin's going on in this cage. That would be awesome.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's probably possible.
Yeah.
Really remarkable.
It will be.
So at one point, stuff like that's just going to get easier and easier till eventually further down the road when everybody's got Herpstat 12s and they can run their entire room off of it, wireless, Bluetooth enabled, and can pump music out of every single cage. That's what we'll be looking at. So
I see a day where you're going to have a unit that's going to, be able to replicate what it's like when the sun rises and sets, what it's like when a storm would come through, what it's like when, UV spots and stuff like that, and all those types of things to where, I just see this. I don't know. It seems like we're on that snowball, and especially with AI now and all the technology just jumping leaps and bounds. I just don't see how it doesn't go there. You know? It's just a matter of being able to do it or somebody doing it,
Well, Eric, thanks to you, I have got into the smart plugs.
There you go.
I bought so many smart plugs that my TV quit working. I used all the Wi-Fi. That I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I don't think you spent a lot of time really discussing the smart plug, but it has been probably the best thing I added to my room in 2021. And I added some good stuff to my room, but I really like those and continue to use them and try to find new ways to use them.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you controlling with them now? Is it lights and heat and all, or?
I'm almost embarrassed to say. So all my other cages are on just individual thermostats that I get off of Amazon, $35. I forget what they're called, but very, very simple. So I have all my thermostats hooked up to the smart plugs for each individual cage. And I've got all my lights hooked up to them. I've got my UVB lights hooked up to them and my fans hooked up to them.
Okay.
And so if I open that app, I'll usually go on there and I'll just change something. And if I was organized enough, I could sit there and map out my year. But, that kind of takes time. I need a setting that really learns me and how I like to adjust. And it just does that for me.
Awesome.
And not so much with my lights. They're on when the sun comes up and they go off when the sun goes down. But I do run the fans at varying times, and I run the UVB at varying times. And I like to shut off the heat on these snakes sometime. I'll mess with them. Even after they eat, I'll turn off their heat. And I know they're looking for it.
Yeah.
But I want them to look for it. And then I may wait 10 hours and I'll turn it back on.
Okay.
So I don't know if it just entertains me or if in some way it benefits the snake, but at the very least I get to see a behavior or two that I don't get to see that often.
Yeah. One of the things I've done recently with those is that I sort of look at, when sunrise is going to happen and when sunset's going to happen. And I sort of like push it a little bit after and a little bit before, and I'll have my main light in the room shut off. And I have two windows in my main snake room, and it just sort of lets the ambient light as that, like it sort of gets that dusk type of, because I think like most snakes are active. They're I'm going to bust this word up. Crepuscular. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Yeah. I wouldn't know. So they're active at that, at when dusk is happening,
right.
Or dawn, but usually it's dusk. So I found that like they really start to go on the move during that time. And it's awesome that with those lights and using a little bit of your iPhone's technology of shortcuts that you can automate those things to sort of do that so that you don't even have to think about it. That's the thing I love about that.
I have the
that's a great idea.
I have the lights in I planted actual live plants in my rhino cage, and they have UV lights for the plants, and they actually turn on at different times. So the main light comes on and it gets to a certain point, and then a couple hours later, the UV lights turn on, and then it's at its full brightness inside the tank. And then the main lights turn off at around like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then the UV lights go down later on. So it's kind of like it kind of slowly gets brighter, and then it's at its brightest, and then it'll slowly go back down, and then it's completely dark. So it's kind of like staggering that kind of stuff too. Kind of does simulate, like you said, dusk, dawn, kind of different stuff like that.
And all that may help calm the snake down and decrease stress and just help acclimate them to do and be more like we expectate. No, that's really cool. I think it's cool how three guys can sit around and talk about changing the light 3 degrees. But that's fun. I have to kind of dive into the unknown a little bit.
Yeah, me too. I'm fascinated in trying to figure. So to me, it's I've said this a lot, but I guess it was when I dabbled into the lizard world. It's sort of I saw a different. I'm glad that I did that because it gave me a different perspective on keeping snakes. And just like with UV lights, sort of what I do with the UV light is that I'll put it on in the afternoon, and then it's only on for a couple hours and then it goes off. I may bring it back on for the diamonds. I usually do it when they're so like I'll turn the light off and it'll go off and on a couple times throughout the day to where it will have this basking spot. But usually when I put the heat on, I'll put the UV on and sort of try to figure out, where are they going to bask or, what are they doing, to try to figure out that, because do they need UV? Do they not need UV? All of that debate and whatnot. I think the only way you figure it out is sort of running those type of situations to see what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know much about it other than I just want to make sure I don't give too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What that is, I don't know, but I'm on, pretty much 3 hours a day.
Okay.
Then I'll have a week that it'll be 6 hours a day.
Right.
And I'll just switch it up on them. But
now, do you observe them basking in that time?
I don't.
No.
Oh, well, okay. I tell you this, they all bask in the morning.
Okay.
But I've never seen them bask directly under the UVB. The basking bulb I have is about 4 inches away from the UVB, and I don't know if I should expect them to get under the UVB. This is a whole new exploration for me. I got these focus cube habitat cages.
Okay.
When did I go pick those up? It couldn't be more than 2 months ago. But
okay.
That's the first time that I've consistently shut the heat off to a snake at night. And just like you keep, Eric, all my diamonds heat is off 100% at night.
Okay.
But, that's the one part of my room that I just don't know because I'm getting used to the cages and the snake behavior in the cages, and it's just completely different from what I've done. So I'm learning hopefully every day.
So I got a question before we get into the cages. Do you notice the same behavior from the diamond crosses as you do from the pure diamond stuff?
No.
Right? It's different.
The diamonds are different.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of their behavior in that they really want to bask. I think they prefer that. I've got belly heat in all my other cages. They rarely use it. They're basking at least 80% of the time. Yeah. And it's just under a LED light. But they like to be in the light. But other than that, man, the diamonds are just different. They're harder. They hold themselves a little differently. It's hard to describe. But I think both you guys have had them, and you've been able to tell. There's like a little something extra with the diamond.
Yes.
They
when it's 40 degrees and they're trying to eat a meal,
right?
You're like, wait a minute.
I've had diamonds, but not any success. So there's something that's been chewing at the back of my head of late of what I can do to set them up to be a really nice kind of big enclosure and stuff like that. So that is I think the next big thing I'm going to try to tackle is diamonds. So they're on my list.
Hopefully, if I produce some, Owen, I can make that a reality.
That or Lucas. Like if Lucas beats you to diamonds, I think we quit. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Game over. Yeah, although I don't know, he's on a roll, man. I
don't know. Well, it's not an Expedites, so
kind of feeling left out here in the cold.
Ridiculous.
They are.
Yeah. I make a prediction.
Came from, but
he's going to be the WOMA person in the U.S. and no
dangerous at some point with them. Yeah,
he's going to be the go-to person.
Well, good for him. Just keep doing it right, buddy.
The other thing I was going to talk to you about, so your cages. So how do you like the focus cube?
Focus cubes, yeah.
I absolutely love them. I'm ready to throw everything else away and just go buy all cages from them.
Okay.
If you want to enjoy your animals, put them in the best cage you can imagine putting them in, and it's amazing how much more you'll enjoy them. And I was enjoying them a lot before.
They just made it worse. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So that'll give you an idea of the setup. I find it. So here's my next question with your cages. So you have 4-foot cages split in two, right?
Right.
Are they pairs side by side, or are you pulling that out so that they can breed together, or you never pull the divider out?
So all these snakes that you're seeing are 2021 animals.
Okay.
So in the next 12 to maybe 18 months, if I push it, I've got to buy 2 more for them. And if you notice, I set all these up as individual enclosures. I won't do that the next time. But the way these are made, and I just can't tell you how well they're made. Just everything is flawless. Stephen and Ashley, just amazing people. I don't think they get tired. I need what they're doing. I get tired just watching them.
Yeah.
But there's a divider that'll come out. So ultimately, I want to have each diamond in its own 4x2x2. And it just so happens with these, I needed to house 4 snakes, so I bought the ones with dividers. But those dividers will be removed, and probably what I'll do is end up buying too many, and then I'll use these for some snakes that I'm going to raise up. But my plan is just to use those as a 1-unit cage when I get 2 more of them to put the other 2 in, if that makes sense.
Right. I also love I don't know if this was done, if this was your idea or something you did or a thing that they have going on, but the fact that you got the hide box, under the shelf, and it's similar to what people do when they're attaching it to the ceiling of the cage. And then I from the picture on below, you sort of have an in and out from the top.
Yes.
Of that shelf.
Just amazing. Stephen thought there wasn't going to be enough room because the shelves, everything, it has been modified to incorporate this 4 units in 2 cages. But when he got to the point where he really put his ruler on it, there was room in there for that hide. And I'm so thankful because there's no way that I could have a place for them to hunker down that would be in a better spot or just more user friendly for me and them. I put moss in there. I pretty much run everything in a sterile setup, but I do have sphagnum moss in those drawers. I spray that down every 3 or 4 days, and they love those drawers. They're in and out from that hole in the top shelf. And there's a rock, a piece of flagstone under the UVB lamp, or not the UVB, the halogen bulb that's in there. And they'll get up and lay on that rock and then go back into that hide. It's really worked well.
That's awesome.
Highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Really cool. What is see that it's sort of like the door sort of goes down like that. What's that? Is that?
Yeah.
That is just the design of the door.
That's
okay.
They cut it.
All right.
That's cool.
It's just their way of giving it a little bit more character.
Gotcha.
But one thing I really like about these cages is they have a fan in there. And it's just amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Seeing that fan run, and it just makes me feel like they're getting fresh air.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing. This is something I learned from Keith McPeak, and he was saying about how a lot of times you don't hear a lot of people talk about ventilation. And I didn't even realize that was a fan. I thought that was just
that was just the way they cut it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think the only thing I would do different is I would have, I want 2 fans in each enclosure, one to push air out the back and one to pull air in from the back.
Gotcha.
Because I'm really thinking I can roll these in front of a window and turn that fan on that's going to pull air in from the window, and I can cool these diamonds that way.
I would imagine that's tough, right?
Yeah.
Being in Texas.
Well, so all these snakes are, our weather gets cold enough. It just doesn't get cold for very long. Our winter is really about 2 months where it gets down to even close to freezing. But I live with these snakes. Literally, they're in my bedroom. So I just have these platforms on wheels with my stacks of cages, right? And so I would open the window and the lowest that I could tolerate was 60 degrees. So I know I got them that cold. But if I'd have had a fan pulling that air in there faster and then being closer to that window, I really think I could have got them below 50 degrees, at least for 30 days or so. And how ideal is that, you know? So hopefully I can see that into fruition.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that setup.
Yeah.
Oh, I've loved it.
Me too.
The one thing I did notice when I was looking through your Facebook is that, you know, often I say that carpets don't like to perch like
a
on
green
those
tree.
single perches,
Yeah.
but I noticed that your diamonds do. So again, you know, it's not
Diamonds
always
are weird. Yeah.
a rule of thumb, but you know.
Yeah, I've got 3 snakes that like to perch like a green tree python.
Really?
One of them is 100% diamond. The other 2 are crosses. But I have mostly shelving in my cages, so they really have a particular flat surface. But I'll see them trying to perch like a green tree on a flat shelf. But I would expect they would do it more if I just had a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something about living, you know, spending 5 hours a day just walking around these animals. They're all very docile. So I think they get used to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't mind perching in front of me. And oftentimes they'll come out when I get home because I think they know if I'm going to get fed, it's going to be from him. So I'll take my chances. Let's go ahead and make a move.
So when it comes to the diamonds or even the diamond crosses, is your feeding, are you doing a seasonal feeding? Are you on a schedule, or what's your approach?
Yeah, I tell you, I've really slowed down my feeding. I'm finding that my snakes grow just as fast, regardless of how much I feed them. So today, at least for the past, well, I just got through with the winter, so I don't feed a lot in the winter, but I'm really going to go to just more of a varied diet. You know, I may feed a snake every 15 days, and then I may give it 3 meals in a week.
Gotcha.
Just kind of follow their lead, so to speak. But it just seems like another way to kind of stress them a little bit. I'd like to get them really hungry at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good at that.
I fed all the females.
Eric, on that, when you let your snakes get hungry and it's a snake that's under 12 months, do you find that snake stops eating as well for you?
No.
Okay.
No, I find that, at least in my experience,
you got a lot of it.
The difficult feeders, I often sort of take the approach of ignoring it. And there's a balance there because Rob Stone has taught me that you can't let it go too far, right?
You got to ignore it up to a certain point. Then you got to do something.
I've done that to where we had to offer tails in order to get the snake back on track because it didn't eat for so long. But I had a zebra jag, like that original clutch that I did. That thing didn't eat for 6 months as a baby. And then I sort of fed it, and then I don't feed during the winter, really, even the babies. The difficulty with that, though, is that it takes me longer to grow into adults.
Right.
And I found that over the past couple of years, I went too far into the not feeding enough type of deal. And the thing of it is like they'll eat like, you know, when I first got in the carpets, everybody was saying about how they're picky eaters sometimes and they switch them from mice to rats, or if you give them birds, they'll never go back to rodents. And I don't know, never have a problem with any of that stuff. No, never. So
yeah, I do feed a lot of different things to my animals, but I do notice that if I feed a snake too long on rats, it doesn't like mice as much. It doesn't like chicken as much. So, but I've really kind of tuned into that being like the first 6 to 8 months. And then I can kind of do whatever I want. But it's that baby snake that I find myself going in there. And unlike you, Eric, I don't like my snakes to not do what I want.
Right.
So I'm gonna go wash that prey. I'm gonna go send it with something.
Right.
I'm gonna try to see if I can entice them with just the thinking that they are designed to shut down if they're in an environment where there's not food. And that shutdown in metabolism that can help them survive for 6 months, we might need to do other things to turn that back on.
Yeah.
Well, that was where I made a lot of mistakes. There was a paper that came out that was talking about Burmese pythons, but they were talking about how their system, to your point, where it just basically shuts down to where their organs actually shrink because they're not putting any, they're trying to conserve calories basically at this point, stay alive, that they don't want to put unnecessary calories into organs, I guess, that they're not using, which to me that's just one of those things that I think everybody sort of just glosses over. That's just amazing to me about pythons in general. It's like they basically are shutting their parts of their body, they're shutting off like a light switch, and they're shutting them down. I found that though, when I'm doing that, where I've made the mistake is when you're coming back up, you sort of have to you can't just throw, I did this with a Moluccan scrub and it was terrible that I lost the scrub because I fed it what I normally would feed it, I think my approach now is that I would offer it a smaller meal to sort of kickstart that digestive system back up. And then, smaller meals more often type of deal to sort of get that going and get it back in sync. But
yeah, I would do the same thing. I'm always afraid to feed a snake that hasn't eaten in a long time.
Yeah.
I would not
I don't know if that's
recommend
common sense, but it also, to what you're saying, Eric, it's completely amazing. It's the equivalent to these snakes shutting down would be like us holding our breath for an hour.
Yeah.
Just shut your breathing down. Yeah, good luck with that. You're going to need a net to drag me up.
Yeah.
But just really amazing animals. And I think a lot of times we don't appreciate all these incredible things they do. Because we're so focused on what they look like.
Right.
And, how much have they eaten, how much longer till they breed. But we really have a unique opportunity to just have such amazing creatures just at our disposal. I mean, it's just so easy and you can just get whatever you want. I'm still in awe of our hobby.
Yeah, we talked about that recently, where it's like you kind of forget sometimes what you got because you're looking at the next thing or the next morph or the next python you're chasing, where it's like you forget that what you got in the back and you kind of almost take it for granted. So
yeah, that's another reason why you stood out to me, Tony. It's like you have this focus. It's the same sort of thing that I was saying with Bill, where he sort of has this idea of from a business standpoint, like where he wants to go. But, with your projects that you're sort of doing this diamond thing, and then you have these diamond crosses of, which I don't know, whatever this animal was the one that was like, holy shit, that is just cool. And I'm sure it's probably just some sort of cross of some sort. But I just love the colors on that animal.
Wow.
I just am like, that is amazing.
So that's Hurt Locker. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That snake really is the only one that I've produced that has that orange kind of copper speckling. And it's a zebra. But I really like that snake a lot.
That's a zebra, a diamond zebra?
So that snake is... And here's the way that I market these snakes and let people know what's in them is I'm going to tell you that snake's 50% diamond, 25% coastal, 25% jungle.
Got it.
So y'all know very well that snake may be 51% diamond and 23% coastal and so forth. But that I had to start somewhere. So I knew when I was wanting to cross these animals, I wanted to add the coastal to it. I think we've seen a lot of the diamond and the jungle, and they're beautiful. I produced some. I just got some eggs actually yesterday.
Nice.
But so that snake, I think that 25% coastal has a lot to do with why those snakes look so unique. With the way that their bands are spread out, and they really took on that speckling. The ones that I've the clutches I've produced from Rambo and Firefly that has no coastal in it, except for the coastal that started that jag, but I'm assuming that was 18 generations down the line.
Yeah, it's a little bit far removed at this point. Yeah,
right. But it doesn't have speckling on the dorsal, and really that was a trend with the whole clutch is they were clean backed. Meanwhile, the ones with the coastal influence really spread that pattern out through the snakes.
That is very cool.
And you're also combining the caramel with the diamond part of it, right?
Yeah.
So the clutch that animal was produced in was Rambo and Colette. And Colette was a 50% diamond or 50% diamond. She was a caramel coastal. So she was produced by breeding a diamond to a super caramel female.
Cool.
It was one of Nick's super caramel females. I know he'll be happy he started all this.
That's the snake, right?
Yeah. And so that's Colette. Yeah.
Okay.
And
cool.
You know, she didn't I didn't really see the caramel in her, but you guys that work with coastals could probably tell she's just super light.
Yeah, I'm about to say she seems real light on that.
And then you have
holy hell
that, which is offspring
it burns the eyes like it's.
So that snake came from the same clutch.
Rambo and Colette.
Libra you showed before. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, that diamond gene really likes the caramel.
Wow, it did great stuff with the head stamp.
So that snake, his name is Dave.
Dave? Dave?
And he belongs to a friend of mine.
Okay.
In San Francisco. And so Jeff bred Dave. I also sent him Colette.
Okay.
I really wanted that pairing to happen. I didn't know how well that snake was going to turn out, but Jeff did get eggs about 10 days ago. So we should get to see what the super form looks like.
So to me, and I know you're saying about the head stamp, doesn't that sort of look like a face of like some kind of like here's like the mouth,
no, it looks
the
like
eyes,
a jag
the nose,
stamp. It looks like a
and
jag.
there's the horns.
Move on.
No, come on, man.
Yeah, it looks like an evil goat.
Yes. Yes.
Vindication. Yeah.
No, I mean, you can't breed for evil ghost head,
but you could. But you could.
It's just cool. You know?
This is my evil ghost head morph. That only the head stamp.
But you know, all of those animals. Well, the jags. When I say all of them, all the jags. Really, the head stamp really doesn't go with the body.
No,
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, you normally see like that
was another one that stood out to me.
That's got to be the caramel influence because normally you have a solid pattern in a head stamp or just one color, but with anything caramel, I think it just bleeds into the head stamp.
See, and also, I guess if you're not watching this on YouTube,
that's its nose.
You're listening, but you see sort of this pattern that's sort of developing on the side and through the eye.
The eye stripe,
yeah, very cool. Very cool. I love the idea of what you're going with the coastal and the diamond sort of cross and the orange tone that they produce, because some of my favorite looking carpets are those ones that come from that intergrade area in Australia, to where you're seeing like they have the coastal color, but it's sort of the diamond pattern and the fishnets type of, reduced type of look. And to me, that's just spectacular. And then I guess when you add the caramel into it, you're just kicking it up a whole nother notch. That's
you're just taking it up a little bit further.
I know exactly what snakes that you're talking about, Eric. And they're in collections in Australia, and they're all considered to be 100% diamond.
Yeah.
You know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
But they are just strikingly beautiful animals. I love that speckling just spread out through the snake.
So really. I have an animal that I have a male. I've kept him forever. I never had any intentions of really breeding him. I just think that it looks awesome. He's a coastal diamond from Bumblebee Tuna.
Yeah.
And he has that exact look. And he looks just like, he's part diamond, part coastal. And he has the coastal sort of pattern, but that orange, brown, copper, gold type of color. I love that snake, but
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. I actually sold that to a good friend, and he had to downsize and got rid of it. And I've kept in touch with everybody that's bought that snake, and I know where it is today. It's back in Texas, because I'll be interested to see what he does with that. It's very cool.
So what is your, are you continually crossing the pure diamonds back into the crosses, or like, are you trying to up the diamond percentage in them, or?
Absolutely. I'm going to try to, I've got holdback females that will be ready in maybe 23, probably 24. And I want to take a diamond to all of those. And I want to see what the 75% looks like.
So you're using diamond male to female crosses, right?
Yes. Well, that's my plan. So God willing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, after a certain point, do you think it's just kind of, I mean, so I think there's going to be major changes in color and pattern. And then once you get to like 75, can even like, would it be 88 percenters? I think you think you're really going to see that much of a change, or you think it's just kind of going to level out a little bit?
So really what I wanted to do when I started doing this is I wanted to make really cool zebras.
Okay.
So I just want to see what kind of zebra I can come up with. You know, I think zebra is just an awesome gene. And I think if we break that pattern up, we add white speckling, yellow speckling to it, I think it can be a really astonishing snake. So, but I do see myself in, maybe 4 or 5 years, just kind of migrating to all diamonds. But having a whole lot of fun with this. And I've got some really good friends that have bought animals from me. So it's so cool to watch their animals grow up and see what they're going to do with it. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, the one diamond you got from Terry that you posted up, I think it's Knockout is the name. Yeah.
She's amazing, isn't she?
Yeah, holy crap.
Damn, that head is awesome.
Yes.
And that's an old picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is so bright yellow now. These diamonds can fool you. The ones you might like is a 6-month-old. You wait till it's a year, they could all look so different. And it's not so much their pattern, but the color.
Yeah, I love how it's almost like it reminds me of like a milder version of a stonewashed, almost like the yellow pattern that's sort of like in the background of those scales sort of coming through. You sort of have the scales where, like with the stonewash, it sort of goes, you don't see the outline, so to speak, but that's a really cool look. I like that a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And you're saying she just intensified with the yellow as she aged?
Oh, yes. I wish you had an updated picture of her. She is really amazing. Yeah, she was up on her perch the other day, and she shed for me. And it was I put a video up, and it was just amazing to see that snake glow. And I really like these diamonds, if you can't tell. It's just like
but that's, I mean, I think we can all agree that at a certain point, any Morelia, like they seem to pop with color when they're close to about a year old. And then when they get about to that 2-3 year old mark is when they kind of explode with color again. And then you're like, holy crap. So, I mean, is that the same kind of thing you're looking at with diamonds, where it's like all of a sudden just like they hit those milestones like about a year or a couple feet, and then at 3 years again, where it's just like knocking your socks off?
I really just want to have about 8 of them, and I think everyone will look different, and I'll love everyone. But I really don't have any expectations other than they just keep exceeding anything that I had thought they would be. Just if you could open a cage and have a snake come out and smell you, it's just amazing. And they go, oh, that's not food. They don't want to be handled.
Right.
But they like to know what's going on. And my other crosses, they're way too shy for that.
Did you? I was going to throw a picture up real quick. I was trying to find. That's not her, is it?
That is her.
That is her tucked in the back. Okay.
I took that this week. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. That's in that. So that's that pull out hide drawer.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, okay. So you get to see what the inside is about. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about I don't know if it's for you, but the contrast between those colors and especially those little the dark black on those little, I guess we're going to call them rosettes, right? If they don't have a certain amount of dots or whatever, they're not pure.
Right.
Bullshit. But you have that dark black, and then you have right inside that color, and oh man, they just pop. Diamonds, man. I don't know, man. they're amazing.
Yeah,
they really are an amazing snake. I think that the next few years, I think a lot of people have these, and they're going to start to be more successful with the pairings, and I think we'll see a lot of them.
Yeah, and I find, especially for Owen, right? I think you just must have not been in the mindset that I think
I wasn't in the right place. Yeah,
I think absolutely 100% you would be successful with them because they're just like the colubrid.
Yeah,
I mean.
Just keep it simple, stupid I think is where I kind of went wrong with it. And also I think I fell into the classic plunder of, like trying to keep them in my snake room in the same kind of things that I had with the rest of my snakes, where it's like, I think I was told just to keep them towards the bottom of the rack or the stack and they'd be fine. And I don't think that's true. I think they just need a little bit more of a different thing in order to be successful. So
if you keep them on the bottom, you can't see them.
Exactly. What the hell's the point of that?
Yeah.
So
I think
I'd like to do it
great
again
in the house, really.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
And if you got them on wheels and you got to roll them to the garage or outside or whatever you're going to do with them, that'll make it a lot easier. But I think they do great in the house.
I am eyeing up. I want to move the rhinos to one corner of the living room, and then I'm already looking at that one section. It'd be right next to the TV, so I'd be sitting there, and you think I'm watching the TV? No, I'm watching my diamonds do shit in this giant cage that I have for them.
I got the little ones upstairs. I just watch them all the time.
I know, but
to what you said earlier, Tony, where they come out and bask in the morning, like they're out like clockwork,
I want the cages, to be honest. I want the cages that Cody has for his like mambas, where it's this giant thing with a glass front. Like I want that. Yeah. Perches and diamond pythons. Like that's the mission.
Okay. There we go.
Give me a couple of years.
All right.
That sounds like a great goal.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to start a project, you need 2.3.
100%. Yeah.
I'm still looking for. I need one more male reduced pattern. And do you guys realize how hard it is to find a male reduced pattern diamond python?
I can throw a stick and hit a guy that's got 3 of them, I think.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. I'm breeding them this year. So.
I'm sorry. I should have prefaced that. Available
one. Yes, you are correct. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Listen, if you shake him awful hard, he'll eventually give it up. So, yeah.
Well, I'm like you. I don't know if it's because I've been there, done that. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you really went into like why you're keeping a smaller collection, but I find for me, I just like the idea of being able to be one-on-one with my snakes as opposed to having this huge group to where I felt that I wasn't in tune with all of them, if you will. Now I'm more in tune with everything.
When you run a big collection, it really puts a lot of strain on how much time you spend with your animals.
Right.
You're always having to go buy food, buy bedding, clean, thaw. There's just always time spent in taking care of that huge collection. So it is a world of difference to keep. My goal is to have 8 adult animals. I'm already pushing it, but it's. I want to stay small because I don't want it to be a business. It's just going to be fun.
Yeah.
How do you stay on track with that?
Yeah, is it hard?
Stay on track with what?
With just keeping a small collection. I mean, there must be animals that pop up from time to time, especially with your experience. Are you ever tempted by
just one more? Just add a little bit more.
No, I wouldn't mind having, I guess, some bredli. I like Brazilian rainbow boas, but I know that I'm going to be limited with space and that my time is important.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to stay close to the vest. I added one animal last year, and it was an animal I got from Gary, a 75% diamond, reduced pattern, male, beautiful animal. But that's kind of my plan. If I can't make it myself, I'm just going to buy an animal here or there. But then, just kind of like I did with Jeff, I'm gonna send my females out. If you can breed them, I'll send them to you.
Right.
So hopefully, I don't have to breed things too many times in a row.
There you go.
Somebody else will do it for me. Yeah.
It's just more fun that way, man.
It really is, especially because it's like I have several of my animals out with other people, especially ones that, I have multiples of their offspring. It's like, all right, well, he's done everything I can do with him here. And I sent him out to a friend of mine, and he produced some of the best looking red coastals I've ever seen from my male. And I'm like, I'll take this little female here and she can come over here. And now it's like, he gets the rest of the clutch. I don't care. I have this little red thing that I'm excited for and can do stuff with. So,
and how easy was that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of satisfaction in that, because you built that snake and you raised it. That snake is locked in. It knows how to reproduce. And so you just hand it over, and everything goes well. That happened with so Dave, that awesome looking caramel, again, was bought by Jeff. I got to know Jeff, great guy. And I really wanted to see what that snake bred to his mom looked like. Jeff has never bred snakes, but I sent him that snake, and he got a clutch out of her, and just couldn't be more happy for him. And that makes me feel good. You know, we need to share this hobby. It's a very private thing that we need it not to be so private.
Helping people. I've had that same friend just got, or I think it was 2 years ago or last year, had his first clutch of bredli from 2 bredli that I produced and sold to him. So it's like, you can kind of see how they kind of go full circle with that kind of stuff.
That's like your grandbaby.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's been our goal, I mean, that's sort of like one of the things I love about Reptile Podcasts just in general, is that you get people come on and they share their info or their experiences, and sort of sometimes, every once in a while you'll find these little nuggets of gold in just conversation from people talking snakes, and you just stumble upon it. It wasn't like it was meant to be. That's sort of why I was saying to you earlier, like, just, if we go down a rabbit hole, we go down a rabbit hole.
Rabbit holes are good. Yeah.
It's usually there that you find those little nuggets of just awesomeness,
Well, I really need to say that I don't think you guys get enough credit. Y'all have changed the face of this hobby already, and it will continue to change even if y'all never did another podcast, because the resource y'all provide to people is invaluable. Every one of Nick's podcasts I've listened to 5 times, because I just want to understand what he's talking about.
Right.
But the more I listen to him, the more I understand. So,
and that's always good, is that you hope, like, if we were to just shut down, you'd hope that somebody else would just like pick it up and keep running. It wouldn't necessarily be called NPR or anything like that, but you always want to keep talking and keep kind of making sure that what I found is, Eric's always about, like, we want to bring people together. We want to kind of share information, but I am very much into the whole, I don't want us to forget where we came from and how we got to where we are, because I think a lot of times, a lot of herp history and stuff like that is lost just because you came in at a certain time. Like, we all haven't been, this isn't something that we're all in and you're all sit down and y'all taught all this stuff at school. You might plug yourself in and you might not know that 20 years ago, you couldn't get a ball python to breed with shit. Like, it was just like, and that's just the way it works, where it's like, you kind of want to do that. That's why I keep getting sucked into books like this. Like, it's just, it's that kind of stuff.
The journey. It's all about the journey. Yeah. I really appreciate y'all for everything you've done. And if y'all ever need anything from me, I'll bend over backwards, because y'all have done a lot for me.
I'm gonna need some diamonds.
That.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll pick first.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, whoa. Of course you will.
I'm curious.
I would love to hook y'all up with anything that made you happy. Absolutely.
Cool.
I'm curious because we're around the same era, the same age. I'm wondering. I think, for me, my feeling is that I think we say, Gen Xers, kids born in the 70s to the 80s, sort of have the best of both worlds with not only technology, the world, but even reptiles, right? Because we've seen what the world was like before the internet, before the technology that's out there, the way that it worked back then and how you had to, how it was sort of like, I don't want to say you were an outcast, but it's not as mainstream as it is today. And to see that sort of change over the years, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tony?
Well, I'll tell you, just in the last year or so, I've really started to share on my Facebook personal page all my snakes. And I wasn't sure about that at first.
Right.
Yeah. If someone hasn't liked it, they haven't said anything. And I've had so many people come talk to me about, why is this snake doing that? And they notice things that I'm surprised they notice.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important that we share what we're doing with the people that really don't know anything about reptiles.
Right.
We have levels of knowledge in reptiles, right? You got the I don't know and the beginner. And a lot of people stay beginner because they never reach out,
right?
And they never get involved. And then we have us guys that are just halfway insane. But I think that there's some really good work we could do just by introducing stuff that if you're willing to look and listen, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like it.
That's interesting. I never even thought about the sharing to your main Facebook page, because I know a lot of people sort of are, to your point, sort of nervous about that and how that's going to, but you've seen that it's been a good thing. So
absolutely.
That's awesome.
I might be the snake guy, but I have Australia in my bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only do I have Australia, but it's beautiful and it's thriving and it's reproducing and it's providing me joy. Why would I not want to share that?
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is the hobby that more people need to get into, especially guys my age. We need something to do. Our mind works. Our body's just slowing down.
Right. Oh, yeah. I know. Wait, Owen.
Well, that's what Tony said before we started. He goes, how old are you? You got a couple more years left. Keep going. You keep pushing up that hill. Yeah. That works. I'm like, okay.
That's another thing I often forget about me and you is that, you're sort of at the point I was, years ago, and I'm sort of over that now. And if we were to see you starting to get over that.
We were to backtrack to when we first started, I was the bright-eyed youngster, and you were me with your 200, 500. Yeah. Now you've just kept going into your twilight of your herp career. Yeah.
But if there's any advice I can give you, it's listen to the old folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They may not say what you want to hear, but they've been around, and as long as they've got their faculties, they probably know something. And I'm not putting myself in that group, but there's a lot of people in this hobby that deserve a lot of respect for what they do.
Yeah.
And I hate to see them not given that respect because they could share so much.
It's something that hits you home when you watch somebody try to argue with Keith McPeak over the care of
isn't it crazy
pythons?
That's the people? That's the guy we thought of immediately,
right? And that's already in the back of my head.
He's such a humble guy,
right? And it's just because he'll come on and be like, "Well, I think you should do this," and they're like, "What do you know?" It's like, "Whoa, kiddo! The reason you have this python is because of this man. Shut your mouth!" It is so. I can definitely see that as something, and that's something else that we try to kind of combat with the show. But I think I'm going to keep trucking as long as I can keep trucking, because I think there's eventually a certain point where you have to take the step to have the smaller collection to enjoy it, or you have to get several employees. Those are that road branches, and I think I'm coming up to it at some point. So I'm going to keep trucking until I get there. But and I've thought about it. If I were to have to cut down tomorrow, would I be able to cut down to 1 or 2 species? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's the thing is, and this would be my advice, I don't know. It's like, I think you have to sort of go through that phase yourself and figure it out for yourself. But at the same time, sort of having the back of your mind that like Rob and Nipper were a big influence on this for me, right? Because they constantly tell me, cut down your collection. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're not enjoying your snakes. What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And just like, no. Because I think, I don't know, you tell me, Tony, what you feel about this. Do you think that in the earlier days, it was about, let's say it was about, how many clutches did you breed and how many snakes do you have? And like, I just think when I came back into it, it was like, everybody would talk about Brian from BHP, from, Brian Barchek, and he had like 40,000 snakes. And that's like, oh man, I want 40,000 snakes, not even thinking to the amount of work
that 40,000 snakes are going to be.
40,000 snakes, would entail.
It was everything in excess, just like it is. There's something about snakes being able to be kept so low maintenance and so many in a small space that just drives people to want to overwhelm themselves with just as much as they can fit in their space. But all that stuff takes time. And then if something goes wrong, it really takes time. Yeah. So yes, we really need to get a different attitude early on about that, in my opinion, and start small, buy 2.3 or something and just dive into it and see how great you can make that. You can never compete with the guy that has 40,000 snakes, but if you do one thing really well, you can make better snakes than that guy could ever think about. Yes. He'll never give that project that time. He doesn't have the time.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I admire and wish I could do it better, but sort of what you were saying, Owen, about, if I could only work with 1 or 2 species, or, I think of so many people come into my head when it comes to that type of thing. And it's like John Battaglia with his Gamma Jacks, and like, he's known for his Gamma Jack, you know what I mean? And, even, I don't know if Bill is like this in the ball python world, but when I think of him, I think of Candino. Like, to me, it's like Candino. That's his thing. And like, just what he's done with that, or the sickness, right? He's not breeding like all these different types of green trees and stuff. He sort of said, okay, I'm going to focus on this. And, maybe I have these satellite things or whatever, but, I don't know, just people like that. That's, and similar to you, where you're sort of focused on these diamonds and diamond crosses. And, I really respect that, ability to focus.
Well, something to think about is I bet the number of people that get out of snakes because they got too many snakes.
Yes. Yeah.
And either they couldn't afford to feed them, they couldn't afford the electric bills. If you grow into that slowly, it's a much more enjoyable process. And you may discover that you don't want to be a big reptile breeder. Right. You may want to be a small reptile breeder. You might just want to be a keeper.
Right.
But there's a lot of different ways to go. And I've heard y'all talk about it. It's a really interesting topic because I think if just like with my kids, if they can learn from my mistakes,
right,
then that mistake was worth it.
Yeah. But
when people just keep doing the same thing, then it's almost like we're never going to learn. And for some people, it's right. Justin Kabelka, that guy, he needs to own more snakes because whatever he does with them, it's right.
Yeah.
He handles it. He's very organized. And a lot of people just don't have all those personality traits where they can do everything and manage their personal life.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think I made this comment a few episodes back or maybe it was on another podcast where we were talking about ball pythons. But the one thing that I notice about ball pythons is it's not so much that they care more or less for the snakes. It's just that I think they're very like the personality of those type of keepers are very like a cell phone business type of motivation. That you see, and probably not everybody, but at least the people, because I'm just probably looking at the top, Right. So it just seems like to me, the people that I'm seeing being successful with them. I think of Ozzie Boyds. I think of, I think of Justin Kabelka, and I'm drawing a blank now on a whole bunch of them. But anyway, they're just sort of like, they have that mindset that they're not only good with snakes, but they're also good with running a business, right? They're good at seeing like how to maneuver in that world. And I think sometimes people think just because you're really smart with snakes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be really smart with business. It's kind of two different things. Yeah. You know?
that's a double-edged sword where it's like you gotta do both. Like, and that can be hard.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of layers, you know. And the more you know, the more layers there are.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So we're coming towards the end, but what I want to do is we'll do the closing questions, Owen, and then we'll close it out, and then we'll do the hot take.
Got it.
So we're going to do the hot take on the whole Florida situation, but go ahead.
Horrible stuff.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So let's see. We don't have the closing questions listed here, do we?
No, I did not.
You sent me.
I just figured you would make.
I got it here. I got them here. Hold on.
It's been so long since you did closing questions.
I know. All right. So Tony, which species have you tried to breed and failed the most?
Oh, I'd have to say ball pythons. Yeah,
okay.
I've always been able to breed other species with a higher rate of higher percentage rate. Of course, I haven't tried to breed ball pythons in a long time, but if I would get 60 out of 100 adult females to go, that was a good year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that could be a fantastic year, but but you're really going to be drowning in ball python eggs. So
I didn't care. I didn't even think about that. Just give me as many as you can. I'll figure that out when it gets here.
That's future Tony's problem. Anyway, so all right. And what is one piece of advice you could give to the reptile community?
Appreciate your animals.
It's a good one.
I like it. That is a real good one.
They deserve a lot of appreciation.
Yeah. What is one species you regret passing on?
Oh, I wish I got diamonds way back when. I don't really have a lot of regrets. I think some of the ups and downs that I've had have kind of led me to where I am, and I'm really happy with this spot. It's a good place. But if anybody just has bred carpets, you've bred several other species, you know how to watch your snakes and the temperatures. If you've bred, what are the snakes that you said you keep in your house, Owen?
I have rhinos. I have all my snakes in my house.
You need diamond pythons.
There you go.
I think you can keep those exactly the same.
Excellent. Well, they're on the list. And I guess the last one would be, what is your coolest reptile moment, whether it be breeding, herping, or keeping?
Man, that's a good question. I've had some good moments. So I'm not sure what kind of impression this will leave, but when I was about 18 years old, my dad had me chase a friend of his with a boa constrictor. Don't anybody do this. Well, this guy was so deathly afraid of snakes that he ran out of the house screaming, got into his car, and he left. And I don't think he would answer the phone from our house at the time. I've never seen anybody as mortally afraid, but I was so proud that this 18-year-old could scare a 45-year-old man like that.
Right.
Well, that oddly enough is what came to mind.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But that's not what we should do with our boa constrictors, people.
Yeah.
We've since learned.
Right.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, okay. So if people want to get in touch with you or want to find you, what you have going on, what's the best place to see?
So
follow you?
I'd say Tony Hurt on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I will have a website up pretty soon. Just wasn't quite ready to launch this week, but I was trying.
Okay. Blue Mountain Pythons, right?
Blue Mountain Pythons. Yeah, I'm gonna go old school, get back in the website game, and see if I can get some traffic on there.
Okay.
Websites, I think, are important.
Well,
I think it's.
Let me know when it's live, and we'll add it into the show notes so people find the episode. We'll.
One thing I want to do is take, if someone buys an animal from me and they want to send me a picture of it at 12 or 18 months, I will post that animal on that site with your name and your business. But I really like seeing my babies grow up. So if that's any enticement, that's something I definitely want to do.
Yeah, I really like that post you put up with Rambo and Colette from your 2021 clutch, and you sort of had like all the offspring a little bit older with some size and some color. That was really cool with different people that have them and stuff.
Absolutely, that was a great snake moment in itself to be able to have kept in touch with all those people and see those snakes doing so well. And, of course, having a small collection allows you to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Eric has to remind me to show people all my cool shit because I just hide it.
Yeah.
It's mine. I don't care. I see it. I don't care what you people see. So, it's like, this is awesome. Oh, yeah, I guess.
All right, we'll do the closing real quick, and then we'll jump back into the hot take. But so if you want to get on our next Herp History, Owen, you say this. Our next episode, we're talking to Craig Trumbauer.
Yes.
He's coming back. We're going to talk to him. We'll be joined by Keith and Rob, obviously, to chat him up and talk about just his history in herpetoculture. He was on Student of the Serpent a long time ago, and he sort of talked about herping in West Texas and stuff. But we're definitely going to chat with him about, because he has 2 books. I think he might have a third one in the works.
I have to get his. Like, I have to do those.
How can you? Oh, dear.
I am fixing it.
I'll have to buy it and send it to you.
Thank you.
Got you. I'll put it on the list.
He's been catching snakes for a long time.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk to him about his experiences and all that. So if you want to learn more about carpet pythons, check out Carpets and Coffee, Carpet Cliff Notes, and now our YouTube channel, NPR Network. We'll be having carpet python videos up there more and more. If you're looking for ways to support the show, follow us and subscribe on all the podcast platforms that you do, NPR Network, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And there's also many other shows in the network that are out there. Reptile Fight Club, Colubrids and Colubroid Radio, Boa, which they're recording right now, actually.
My goodness.
So they're going to be talking about Madagascar boas, which is pretty awesome. So that'll be cool to hear their take on that. You can check out our website and MoreliaPythonRadio.com. Email us if you want to get in touch with us at info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com. We have swag on our Teespring store and Patreon. We have that as well, which
we're redoing the new perks for the Patreon.
Yes. One of them will be
the hot take.
The hot take.
Yes.
So let's transition.
You have to pay for that.
Well,